vegan, or become friends.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
After eating a plant-based diet, he started losing weight very quickly, so quickly that his students called him the incredible shrinking man. He felt so much better though. He started exercising, he started running again, he took up boxing, and he was able to stop taking all of his medications.
Continue watching to find out more.
Honorable viewers, Olá means hello in Portuguese. I am Olinda. The cheerful people of São Tomé and Príncipe Islands send you their love. May you be forever blessed. Welcome to the third episode of our show entitled Going Meatless with Kristie Middleton, vegan, transforming the way you eat and live. Over the years, Kristie has heard numerous success stories of how the vegan lifestyle transformed people across the spectrum, such as losing excess weight, improving their health, becoming more aware of the animals suffering, or reducing their environmental impacts. Let's hear one of Kristie's favorite stories.
There are so many wonderful personal success stories that I've heard from people over the years. One of my favorite examples that I share in my book is that of Ken Chadwick. Ken was the dining services director at American University in Washington, D.C. when I met him. He had been working in university food services for decades. And when he arrived at American University, one of the first things that he wanted to do was hear from students what kind of foods that they wanted to see on their menus. And he kept hearing from students that they wanted more vegetarian and vegan options on their menus. And his response to them was, we have a fantastic salad bar. And the students were saying that's just not enough. And so Ken said that he was always a contrarian and he liked to always hear people out and then push back if possible. And so he decided that he was going to become vegan while he was on campus so that he could see what their experience was. And his hope was that he would prove them wrong. And he said that he was not going to eat from the salad bar in order to be able to determine what it would be like to have that existence. And so the first day he tried to do that, he said he ate pears, but that was the only food that was available. And so he quickly teamed up with his dietitian and his chef on campus to ensure that there was a delicious, totally vegan option for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert. The students benefited, but Ken also started to benefit. He, at the time, had been severely overweight. He said that he was on a bunch of medication for his heart health, but also he had knee and other joint issues. He had tried to keep his weight in check by exercising routinely, and he would go for a run and try to run a mile, and he would just collapse at the end and need to sit there for an hour in order to be able to get up. After eating a plant-based diet, he started losing weight very quickly, so quickly that his students called him the incredible shrinking man, and they thought that he might be sick or something because he was losing weight so fast. He felt so much better though. He started exercising, he started running again, he took up boxing, and he was able to stop taking all of his medications. And of course, the students at American University benefits because he was such a champion. And his takeaway was that if you think it's too hard, just try it yourself, because you're not going to know until you actually try it and experience it yourself.
Kristie also explains that, in addition to improving our health, the vegan lifestyle protects the environment in a massive way as well.
There are so many environmental benefits to eating less or no meat. We are suffering from the impacts of climate change, and I think a lot of people don't realize the environmental impacts that we're plaguing our planet with because of factory farming. If we went meat-free even just one day a week, we'd be like taking 500,000 cars off of U.S. roads. That's the carbon savings that we would experience. It's also incredibly resource-intensive to produce meat, so it requires lots of land, water, and other natural resources just to produce meat.
We'll take a moment to thank heaven for the kind-hearted dining service personnel who provide delicious, nutritious vegan dishes for the good of their guests and our planet. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Vegan Heaven Beckons. Beautiful viewers, welcome back to our program. A recent report from the Sentience Institute states that in the USA, 99% of all meat, dairy, and eggs comes from factory farms. Kristie says that factory farms cause immense environmental damage as well as suffering for the people living near these facilities.
In my book, I share the story of one community that suffered the impacts of a local egg farm. This is a woman who, her name is Lita Galiciano, and she and her husband had moved to the Central Valley of California. They wanted to buy a plot of land there and raise a family, along with a few other friends, and establish a community where they could all live nearby. And they lived there in relative peace and happiness for many years, and then locally, an egg farmer bought the property down the street from their home. And this was not just any old egg farmer, it was an egg factory farm where they had hundreds of thousands of egg-laying hens confined in cages. Of course, it was terrible for the animals, but also Lita and her neighbors suffered the environmental impacts of that, because the typical way that this egg factory farm would dispose of their waste was by putting it into what were called manure lagoons. And this is pretty consistent with what happens in factory farming overall. So there they had hundreds of thousands of egg-laying hens producing tons of waste. And for Lita and her neighbors, sometimes the air was so putrid with ammonia fumes from the waste that they couldn't go outside. It caused their lungs to burn. It caused their eyes to burn. They would get dizzy. They would get nausea and stomach aches. And then, of course, all of this manure was just sitting right out there in the environment. The same thing happens on pig factory farms. Sometimes in places like North Carolina, not too far from where I grew up, we would experience hurricanes or other storms where the manure lagoons would overflow, seeping off into the local waterways, and that caused all of the oxygen to die out in the water, and it would cause massive fish kills. This is something that happens routinely in communities surrounding factory farms, and so there are severe environmental consequences to our meat, egg, and dairy-heavy diets.
In addition to immense environmental damage, factory farms also cause untold suffering for the billions of helpless animals raised there. Kristie explains how the filthy, overcrowded living conditions on factory farms are torturous for these highly intelligent beings, especially chickens.
My neighbors right here next door have chickens, and I used to get visits from a couple of their chickens who had these incredible personalities. One was named Goldie, and the other one was Red. You can guess what colors they were. And Goldie in particular just had this amazing personality. She would come over. I have feeders here in my yard where I feed the birds and the squirrels, and she quickly figured that out. So she would come over and eat some of the food on the ground that the other animals had knocked off of the feeder. And then she would go and take a nap and roll around in the grass here in my yard, take dust baths. Dust baths are something that chickens do naturally in order to keep their feathers healthy. In a factory farm setting, chickens are confined in wire cages where they don't have any natural substrate where they can peck around. Their beaks are like our hands. They use them to explore the world. And so it's really important for them to be able to scratch around, use their beaks to peck seeds or other things like that. On a factory farm, they can't do any of that. Chickens also really need to lay their eggs in a private nesting area. So it causes immense frustration, and there are lab studies that have shown that chickens who are deprived of the ability to lay their egg in a private nesting area versus being deprived of food would actually go into the private nesting area to lay their eggs rather than even eating. That's how important it is. And in these factory farms, they're unable to lay their eggs in a private nesting area. They can't take dust baths. They can't even extend their wings without touching another bird or the inside of the cage. And I think a lot of people don't realize that chickens are very intelligent, very sensitive animals, and they would be horrified if they knew the way that these animals are raised in order to produce their food.
Many thanks, Kristie Middleton, for sharing this vital and relatable information with us. May all people soon adopt the noble, compassionate vegan lifestyle to protect their health, the animals, and our beautiful planet. For more information about Kristie Middleton, please visit kristiemiddleton.com. Loving viewers, it has been a pleasure to have your presence on today's program. Please join us again next week on Thursday, July 15, for the final episode of our show. May the inner heavenly light and sound bring you quick spiritual upliftment.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/VE.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/VE.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/VE.
Naše programy nabízejí více jazyků. Prosím, navštivte suprememastertv.com/schedule a suprememastertv.com/VE.
Vegan because we are proud to be human.